form of emotional abuse.
It's like a very slow burning abuse.
It's control.
Yeah.
It's just control. No.
Sure.
Bros before hoes, people. Even aunties adhere to that.
I think you were just 100% put off it.
And welcome to Samosa Chats episode 2. We're here with Mona and her mum Simi. How you guys doing?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, this was a bit of a surprise when Mona suggested that you should come on.
Yes,
I wasn't expecting it.
I thought it was your suggestion.
Nah, so we were talking about it earlier, weren't we? Like how oh shit, it was my suggestion, wasn't it? Yeah.
And my mum was like, "Oh, I'd love to talk about some things." And I was like, "No." And then you were like, "Bring your mum on." I was like, "Mum, okay."
I thought it would be good to just like have like a real perspective, innit? And like when you told me your mum's story, I was like, yeah, we've got to have her on. Obviously, I'm gonna call you auntie or mum. It's gonna be one of those two.
Just call me Simi, it's fine.
So, okay, that was very direct. She was like, no, just call me Simi.
Don't call me mum.
Yeah, don't call me mum, you fucking weirdo.
No, I think in this country, there is no disrespect in addressing somebody by their name.
But then I call Sanjay, mum's boyfriend, and she's like, "Call him Sanjay uncle." And I'm like, "He's not my uncle."
It's just that
He's your boyfriend.
Asian close families, it's nice to give, some people do.
Right, Simi it is. So
Thank you.
So thank you for coming on, Simi. I should say, obviously Mona.
My
I was going to say
pleasure.
works here, but like, obviously this is part of her project as well.
It's a pleasure.
So yeah, so when did you first come to the country? I'm assuming you're not putting that accent on, right?
Oh no, I didn't think of my girls are always making fun of not like ridiculing me, but in a nice way, making they think I have a very Indian accent. But
It's
I've
not
been
very
here-
Indian. You've got the twang.
I've been here a good 27 years now, and I came here in January 1993 after I got married to my ex-husband.
Yeah.
Now ex-husband, yes.
Did you come here before the marriage or
No,
because of the marriage?
No, that was the first time I came here, and that was after I got married to my ex-husband in 92 December. So
Yeah.
I came here on the 1st of Jan 1993 on a cold, frosty morning.
Nice.
Yes.
So how did you actually end up getting married to your ex-husband? What was like the story behind that?
Well,
How did it actually happen?
It was an arranged match, and it was through the matrimonial columns of a leading newspaper in India. But having said that, even though we connected through the newspaper, my sister-in-law, which is my bubby in Punjabi, I would say, my cousin's wife, her sister was married into a prominent family in London. So my folks called up her father-in-law, and he seemed to know the family from having seen them at the Gurdwara. And he kind of confirmed that they were decent people, they were a decent family, and basically that was the green flag to go ahead. I had met my ex-husband a couple of times, 2-3 times, where we'd spent a few hours, and he seemed decent enough. He seemed a good man.
Yeah.
So it all happened very quickly. We met in August, and we got married in December. In that time, he visited my family in Bhubaneswar,
Yeah.
which is a small city, capital of Orissa. So he visited my family, and it all went ahead very quickly.
Yeah.
So
How was like marrying somebody that like you'd only met? Were you like accustomed to it?
well, I'd seen arranged marriages in my family, and they all seemed to have worked. And I'd had a little time to spend with my ex, and I just went with the gut feeling. It all seemed good. The
Yeah.
family was good. My ex-husband seemed to be a good man. He had a decent job, and he seemed very keen. He said all the right things, and I got very positive vibes. And it just,
Yeah.
I wasn't forced into it. I wasn't pressurized. It seemed right at the time.
Hmm.
So it just all happened very quickly after that.
Right. And when did you first start noticing that something? Oh, we should just clarify as well that is Mona's dad is Simi's
My
ex-husband.
father.
Yeah. So this is a very interesting like little dynamic we've got. Obviously, you're hearing about your dad as well. Did you know all of this beforehand?
Yeah, you must have told me when I was maybe like in my teens.
Yes, we did talk about
Because
how
the
I
relationship
met.
was turbulent, so I guess it wasn't really a topic that you kind of avoid. I
Yeah.
guess I maybe asked you, "What are you doing with this man?" You told me how it all came about. So,
You
yeah.
know, at the time, it all seemed good. In fact, it almost he seemed like a fairy tale. I'm an only child. I don't have any brothers or sisters, and I lost my dad when I was 6 years old. And my ex seemed. Uh, he said to me, "Oh, I've waited this long to get married. I wanted to be settled. Uh, your mom can also come and live with us. I have a good job. I'm doing well."
Yeah.
So he said all the right things, and I thought, great,
Yeah.
this, because obviously I did say to him that I'm an only child and I will need to make a trip to India every year. My mother will come and see me, and I hope you're okay with that.
Yeah.
And he was very happy to say that, look, I've been blessed with, everything. I'm earning well. Your mom can also come and live with us. I thought that was very generous of him, and
But it never happened.
it
So
no things.
don't jump ahead, Mona. I'm
Ah.
trying to build up to the story,
Oh,
okay?
sorry.
So
Yes.
so to
So he
recap,
said all the right things, and I didn't pick up on anything. I didn't pick up on any red flags. He was a smoker. I wasn't very happy about that, and he did say that he would give it up,
yeah,
and I believed him.
right,
But now you ask me, and I'll tell you, people don't give up. Smokers, people who've been smoking many years. Very, very, very difficult to make somebody give up
right.
something.
And it wasn't just cigarettes.
Yeah,
I didn't
and
clarify.
it was later I found out that it wasn't just cigarettes.
Oh shit! It wasn't crack or anything, was it?
Not crack, but might as well have been from the state he ended up in, to be honest.
Yes, so it was when I came into this country, I was shocked and horrified to find out that he was smoking cannabis. Uh,
It was a bigger deal back then, okay?
I think
Yeah,
especially for an Asian man who's, mid-30s, smoking joints every day on the weekends, pretty much a day without, and then wanting to kind of settle down with a young wife and being like, nah, I'm not going to really adjust this lifestyle.
yeah.
I'm just going to keep living like a teenager.
So it's very much like a dependency thing, and maybe even like an immaturity thing.
no, when
I think it was an immaturity thing.
well, I remember the first day I landed here, and he took me home, and he pulled out a box and rolled a joint. I'd never seen something like that, and he explained, oh, just like people have a drink to relax. I come from a Punjabi family. Yes, the men will have whiskey or scotch, or
Yeah,
whatever. He said this was pretty much a recreational thing, and it was harmless.
yeah,
It was actually less harmful than alcohol. That's what he said to me at the time. But over a period of time, I found his dependency on it. He needed to have 3 or 4 joints every evening after coming home from work. And over the weekends, on a Saturday or Sunday, typically he would wake up and roll a joint first thing, even
yeah.
before his cup of tea. And this would carry on till about 2, 3 o'clock, when he would finally go and shower and have something to eat
Hmm.
and get ready, and then maybe we would go out for a little while. Um, he had promised to take me on a honeymoon. We never did have a honeymoon. We came straight. I got married in India, and we came straight here. He said, "Oh, I've taken a week off to help you settle in." And that week, he told me how to use the dishwasher. He showed me how to use the dishwasher and the Hoover, and that sort of thing. Um, and we were at his parents every evening. we would go out for a little while and then end up at his parents, or his parents would come to our place, and we would just eat together.
Yeah.
So I didn't resent that. I imagined he was helping me settle in. I needed to get to know family,
Mm-hmm.
but that promised honeymoon never did happen. I do think it's important. It's important because it's that time where the man and the woman get to spend a lot of time with each other and get to know each other,
Yeah.
a lot about each other. I think it's a special time in that respect. But we ended up spending a lot of time with his parents and his sister, and I was not happy about this new thing that I'd learned about him, that he was smoking
Mm-hmm.
cannabis, not only cigarettes but cannabis, and he said, "Oh, it's quite harmless, but I will try and give it up. I'll give it up when we have a baby. I'll give it up."
Yeah.
And my first one came along soon, but no, he never gave up. And then I had my second one again on the promise, yes, I will give it up. I will give it up. I imagined that he would become more responsible. And yes, my second one came along 4 years after my first one.
Mm-hmm.
But no, he didn't change. He continued to stay the way he was, and his habits only got worse. I was like a single parent, taking my children, taking the pushchair out on my own, just taking my
Yeah.
girls out and with friends to the park or swimming or gym or whatever, doing a lot of things on my own, only because he just couldn't be bothered to. He was too lazy.
I think
He wanted to.
fundamentally the point is here that what you kind of discovered quite quickly was that you'd married a man who maybe had been brought up in such a way that he was sort of stuck at like 21. He was a man child.
Right.
And this sort of lack of respect wouldn't break the habit. Awful father. All culminated in then like a disastrous relationship.
Yeah, he absolutely adored the children.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but your life changes after you have children. You no longer can have the luxury of sleeping late. You got to do things for family. You've got to put your family first. Otherwise, just continue to live like a bachelor.
Mm.
When you bring a woman into your life, when you have children, you have to make the effort to take them out, teach them things, do things with them. Your life changes in so many ways.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to do any of that. Also, I found out he was a complete mummy's boy.
So I was just about to. I was just about to say. So it sounds like from everything that you've said, and I guess there's a relevance here as well. So it sounds like there's a lack of growth as a person, and I think the relevance of this, like, I'm bringing you onto the podcast today, is I guess this is almost like a cultural epidemic, isn't it? So this like whole like lack of like you have like a lot of mummies boys who
in the Punjabi culture.
I would even go so far as to say in the Indian culture, just in general, and maybe even South Asians, because like I can't imagine that this being just like a Punjabi thing or just an Indian thing. Like there is something in that subcontinent where it's like, the boys are babied, the women are given like a burden from early on, like you cook, you clean, you do this from like since you're like 12, and then like the boys are babied, but then it extends almost to like what you were saying, like the sort of immaturity to actually grow out of those habits. That maturity isn't there.
So what I find is that families like my ex-in-laws, families that have come here in the 60s, in the 50s, they come here, they've left their parents, right?
Yeah.
So they've left their families back in India. The couple has come away. My ex-mother-in-law has walked away from her in-laws. Yeah, and their children grow up here. They grow up in the West. So there's a different set of rules for them. And then they have this desire for their sons to go and get married to a girl from India, a woman who goes, yes, sir, 3 bags full, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Whilst their daughters can do what the hell they want.
Right.
But there's a different set of rules for the daughter-in-law. They have to be a certain way, and the sons are allowed to do anything. They just get away with doing whatever.
Yeah.
They can do no wrong. So there's a huge amount of pressure on this woman who's come to a different country, and marriage itself being hard work between two people. These external pressures, they're a perfect recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Instead of letting two people find their peace, when there's the mother-in-law and the father-in-law and the sister-in-law, and all the politics that happens,
Mm-hmm.
it puts a huge amount of pressure
On the actual
on the
family.
marriage.
Yeah.
And even if there is some chance of a couple, finding their peace after a period of time,
Mm-hmm.
the marriage breaks down.
Yeah, because of those external
Because
pressures.
of that, all these external factors.
So going back to your own relationship here, so you're married, you've got a couple of children now. At what point does the marriage sort of take a turn? At what point does it get too much, and that you can consider sort of, I guess, separating? But maybe even before that stage before where you're like, okay, something's definitely like beyond the pale here.
I think what happened was that my ex-husband, even after 2 children, did not become a responsible father. He just got from bad to worse. And I think things just went from bad to worse at the point in time when I actually started to live with his parents. Um, my ex-husband's dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and because he was the only son, he said, now we must move in together. I have to look after my parents. And I had my apprehensions because I thought they didn't like me even when I didn't live with them. And how are they going to, what is it going to be like?
What was your relationship like with the in-laws?
Um, my father-in-law was a good man, but unfortunately, he didn't have much say in the family. My ex-mother-in-law and sister-in-law were very strong women who liked to have things their way. They were not happy with me. I just failed at their expectations. I just wasn't good enough. There was
honestly,
nothing
Mum,
I could do right.
But no one would have been good enough because it's like, it's my son, it's my brother. Like, no woman is good enough. And that is also, that you could tell that from the way my dad was brought up by his mother.
I was just about to say, so does that go back to that cultural point of like not? I guess in in that way, like the babying of the brother or the male son or whatever you want to call it, that continued into marriage, but then there was no separation where it was like, okay, you can build your own household now.
Yeah, I think so, because really what the wife was meant to do was to, like I said, cook and clean, make babies, and then everything else, like there was no other purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they were like, well, we are the main women in this life. That one cooks and cleans and makes the babies, but really, in terms of where this man is going to go and who he's going to listen to, it's not going to be the wife.
So I could do nothing. I wasn't good at. I wasn't good enough for them. I couldn't cook. My cooking wasn't good enough. The way I was raising my girls was not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't dress properly. I didn't clean properly. So basically, I didn't do anything right.
Right.
Even though my friends think I'm a good cook, my children think I'm a good cook. But
he was like, "This dal is not good enough. It's not as good as my mother's dal."
And that is all. That's the purpose of a woman.
It was like,
right?
yes. So nothing was. I could do nothing right, and the daughter could do nothing wrong. The son could do no wrong.
Yeah. So I guess it was
So
like you were almost an outsider in a home that you were
yes,
supposed to be
I
building.
felt I was made to feel like an outsider, and what was very hurtful is that when I lived on my own with my ex and I didn't live with my in laws, my family was able to visit me. My mother came to visit me.
Yeah.
As soon as we moved in together, I was told that, oh, your family can't visit. So I gave up my space to look after my in laws, only to be told that here's a no entry board for your side of the family.
Right.
So my mother couldn't visit me. At one
Fuck.
time, she visited and she had to stay with a distant cousin of mine, you know.
Yeah. Do you reckon that's like a
So
cultural thing, or do you reckon that's because there's so many stories like that where it's like the wife first it starts with the wife getting ostracized like from the main family, but then she's still there to do certain bits and pieces, like you said, the cooking and the cleaning, and then the family starts. It's almost like a form of emotional abuse.
It's like a very slow burning
it's
abuse.
control.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just control, you know.
It's almost
that
like you've married
it's-
into this family now, like really just forget about everything else.
Mm.
Yes. So,
So yeah, so your family is effectively being distanced away from you, I guess.
yes.
You've got
Yes.
these two
So
kids.
that was very painful. Um, that, you know, here I'm expected to be a dutiful daughter-in-law and look after my in-laws. Again, it was not my father-in-law. This was my mother-in-law and my ex-sister-in-law, you know, who said absolutely no, your family can't visit.
What were you
And
feeling at the time then? So this is all going on. What was your emotional state like?
I was uh, I was at a lot of pain emotionally. Uh, felt totally alienated. Felt very unhappy and trapped in a marriage. Um, and my girls were also unhappy. They went to the best school, but I was called into school once when the teacher said my older child had been crying
Hmm.
um, to a friend, you know, to say my father treats my mother very badly, and you know how unhappy she was. So it was actually impacting on their education. Um, so it was a very unhappy situation.
Yeah.
And I think what happened was, as time passed, as the children grew older, I think I managed to gather the strength to walk out.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any family in this country, you know, apart from a cousin. This is actually my cousin's daughter who was here, but no one very close where I could just kind of pack my bags and go. You know,
Yeah.
she had her own family, and I didn't know what I would do if I left. I didn't know. The only places I could go to were these women's centers, refuge centers,
Yeah.
and I would be appalled at the thought of taking both my girls and living somewhere. I would think, oh, what's going to happen to their education? What's going to happen to them?
Hmm.
Uh, but I think, like I said, I as children got older, Mona was 14 and Sabi was 10 when I just decided. By that time, there'd been quite a few episodes of physical abuse where my ex husband had hit me, emotional abuse, control, and I decided I didn't want to live with him.
Hmm.
Uh, in the meantime, every time I tried speaking to my mother to say it's not working, she would just tell me to try. You know, her it would be like try karo, keep trying.
Yeah.
You know, try to make it work.
And there was no like
And
understanding or anything.
there was yes. So I think because of this huge stigma attached to, oh, you know, if she comes back to India, what are people going to say?
Hmm.
So each time she would say to me, "Oh, you're an intelligent woman. Can you not try to win his heart and win?" In
Wow.
Hindi she would say, "Unka dil jeetne ki koshish karo." Be respectful to your mother-in-law, and they will come around.
So even the
But
pressure to like fix it was placed in
yes,
your court,
yes,
even though you've done effectively nothing wrong.
yes. So, and when I did finally gather the courage um, to leave, uh, a lot of extended family were not sympathetic at all, because they thought, "Oh well, is the man having an affair? Does he want to leave you? Why does she want to leave?
Mhm.
He's a well-to-do man, and why does she want to leave?" And their attitude then was, "Oh, we don't want to be involved. It's her bed. She's made her bed. Let her lie on it." That sort of attitude.
And that's your own extended family.
And that was extended family, to think that I was out of my mind to do something like
Mhm.
that. So apart from a few cousins my age who were able to see where I was coming from, there was little sympathy. And but now in retrospect, I think it's the best thing I did,
Yeah.
because after years of having walked on eggshells, of not having a voice, of just being in a very unhappy relationship,
Yeah.
it was liberating. It was very hard to be a single woman with two girls, but I think we managed to pull through, and
Well, you're
I'm,
here
I'm,
today.
I'm here today.
We made it out.
My girls are doing well, I'm very proud to say, and I'm doing all right myself.
That's good.
I qualified as a mortgage advisor last year.
Oh, congratulations. We
And,
could get a round of applause going for that. Dropping mics.
Thank you.
To go, so your mum mentioned you there and like your school and stuff. Do you remember any of this? Like, what's like your
Yeah.
earliest memory of this stuff?
Oh,
Because I think one of the weirdest things, and like we were talking off camera about this stuff, is that everybody in our generation, like second or third generation immigrants, mainly second, always have something where they're like, oh, this happened.
yeah, almost like a sort of family secret.
Yeah. A dirty secret in the club. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
obviously every family has like politics and drama, no doubt about it. But yeah, like I think growing up in that sort of environment, I was speaking to my mom about this a couple of weeks ago. Like the whole thing was like a massive like mind fuck for a kid, because like my mom said, like we lived when we all moved together. We moved from West London to Surrey.
Mhm.
Beautiful house, beautiful area, wonderful schools. Everything was great, really lovely friends. Everyone was really nice and
How
middle
old were you
class.
at the time?
We must have moved in all together when I was 8.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, wonderful education, everything. But it was such like I guess like a juxtaposition, like from school and the lovely private school and lovely friends and great education and wonderful teachers, to then coming home to this like really horrendous atmosphere.
Mhm.
Yes, we were in the middle of like wonderful Surrey, but like no one knows what went on in that house. Like I remember once, well, they used to argue like mad,
Mhm.
and then it would get physical. And I just remember waking up one morning. You woke us up in the morning. Savvy, me and my sister got ready for school, came into the kitchen, and my mum had like a lump on her forehead. And I don't think me and Savvy said anything, or maybe we did, and you said you maybe like fell or something. And then my dad came with the same lump to make his coffee. So he'd obviously headbutt her
Shit.
the night before when we were in bed. And it's just like then having to go to school, like knowing like this had happened. It was just
Mhm.
like, but again,
But you couldn't say anything.
well, no, there was no one really to say, and the atmosphere at school was lovely. Like it was a total escape. But it was like, do any of my other friends go through this, or am I the only one, or is this normal, or they look really happy, or they say such nice things about their parents. Their parents seem to like each other,
Yeah.
and it was all just like extremely confusing for someone so young. But I think with time, we kind of realised.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, that's it.
So where your mum mentioned that you said something at school.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't, because I don't think it happened very often.
Right.
It must have been really, really bad.
Right.
Like possibly an ambulance call or a policeman the night before or something at the house. You know, when you're definitely like, well, something is fucking wrong here.
What,
So to get up and go to school in your uniform and like act normal and sit in assembly and trying to be, you know, get through the day was really hard, and eventually you would crack.
But at one point in time, you know, after my ex-husband had hit me a few times, I did call the police, and then the social services stepped in, and they wanted to meet me with the children because they were very concerned that the children were in this atmosphere. So thankfully, well, the meeting happened in in the girls' school, because I didn't want to see them at home. So their report was positive. They said the mother was calm and a balanced person, and the children were dressed in clean clothes, and they were doing all right. Because for the social services, it's just they are on alert for the children coming to any harm.
Yeah.
So they gave a positive report there. But just to say that the atmosphere at home was awful. At one particular time, I remember my ex was furious. There was a massive row, you know, between my ex mother-in-law, and he threw a plate at me, and I remember my younger one was petrified. She was eating at the table, and she went and sat under the dinner table. She wouldn't come out.
Wow.
So my ex-husband had thrown a plate at me, and then he had broken one of the shelves in anger. He had, you know, just hit one of the cabinets in the kitchen, and my younger one was under the dining table, you know, not wanting to come out of there.
Yeah.
I actually remember sitting under the dining table and feeding her because she had food on her plate.
Wow.
So yes, it did actually affect my children.
Yeah.
And I do feel very, very sorry that you know, they should have had a happy childhood. They didn't. That there was no want for anything. You know, there was everything there, yet there was no happiness. Only because of the way their dad was.
Yeah.
I think the most
we
scary.
had no holidays. We had no. Even for those who can't afford holidays, they can still have happy memories. You know, where the parents take them to the park, even if it's a visit to the park, to a local attraction, to somewhere you do things together.
Yeah.
But we don't have any such memories because of the way my ex was, and because there was just so much tension in the home at all times. And then when I walked out of there, even though the dad promised that he would continue to pay for their private education, he stopped doing that. And my girls had to, from having gone to the best schools, had to go to state schools. And for them, it was a huge, especially for my younger one, it was because she was only 10.
Yeah.
My older one, Mona, was 14 then. So it was a huge shock to her system, especially my youngest one.
Yeah.
And it affected her. It affected her performance in the academic field. She was a bright child, but it did really disturb their education.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's something that like people don't talk about. Well, maybe they do talk about it with domestic violence, is how it like almost permeates through generations, doesn't it? So it's like, even though the problem was in your relationship, it becomes a household thing, and then it's like, you know, it's affecting the children as well.
And it affects like literally like even though that obviously it's no longer going on, my parents separated, because obviously when everything was happening, the most terrifying thing I think for me and my sister being like obviously the only children in that situation, was that there was no one trying to stop it. We lived with our grandparents, but no one really tried, like they really didn't do anything. So as you can imagine now, how I feel towards my dad and my grandma is really probably quite unhealthy.
You
Oh.
know, I'd like to add something here.
Yeah, sure.
In my mother's generation, she tells me that at one time, her brother and his wife, so my mama ji,
Mm.
you know, they had a huge row, and my aunt left my uncle's home, but the parents were very quick to step in. So my grandfather and my aunt's parents got together and told them, no, you have to try. And the parents promised each other, you know, the my mother's father, my grandfather, that, oh, please don't worry about your daughter, and we'll do everything. So the elders have a responsibility, you know, to make sure that in an arranged match they give all their support towards making their marriage work, as opposed to being a force which is tearing them apart.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you feel like that was a factor in your relationship?
I think so. I think so. I think the parents did not. Here, when I say parents, I will only refer to my ex-husband's mother, uh, because my father-in-law, bless him, he passed away. He had Parkinson's. He was not with it, but I do think that the elders have a huge responsibility, you know, towards making sure that they step in and try and do what they can to set things right.
Right.
But unfortunately, in some instances, they become these evil forces that 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 just, you know, that will just escalate a marriage breakdown.
Yeah.
Which is what happened in my case.
And my granny, it's not even that she ignored what's happening. She almost condoned it, didn't she? She said,
Yes.
what
At
she
one
say?
point in time, when my ex-husband had hit me, and my mother called from India, saying that, you know, that this is very wrong, and these, you know, the your son is educated and you're all educated, so you should sit down and talk. And, you know, what was the need to raise his hand? Now this conversation happened in Punjabi, and my ex-mother-in-law, to that, to my mother saying what was the need to raise his hand, she goes, oh, kadi kadi jananiyan nu kutna penda hai. Sometimes you have to hit them to make them understand.
I guess the translation there is also hit and beat.
Yes.
That's
So
barbaric.
to that, my mother said that you have a daughter also at home. You know? So
My auntie.
So just to say that, you know, these are people who have lived in the West. They have a daughter themselves, but such insensitivity towards somebody else's daughter, you know, which is a very sad and shocking truth.
Yeah, and that was something that we were talking off air about as well, weren't we? Where we were talking about how, like, the daughter-in-law, and I guess it throws back to the podcast with Calber as well, where it's like the daughter-in-law is just seen as like a totally separate entity.
Like
it's not
you
even
said,
like
it's
a person.
like a trade in.
She's an outsider.
Yeah,
you know?
Something that you've sort of bought with money or gold
Dowry
or whatever.
or whatever.
Who's kind of now joined your family to make your babies, because obviously the bloodline needs to continue. And that's really it. They really don't mean anything.
Yeah, it is intense. Like, I guess it just comes down to just like changing a whole culture, I guess. And I do think it is happening, maybe not as fast as it should, but I think in our generation, it's still definitely still present, and it's definitely too common.
So when we moved in together, when I moved in with my in-laws, it was at a new property, a much bigger property. So it needed to be renovated. So all the decisions regarding, you know, whatever was how the house was to be furnished, whether it was buying rugs or lights or what color to paint the walls, it was all my ex-sister-in-law. my ex-husband would ask his sister, who did not even live there. So I was just meant to just
It was
make
basically like a slave.
chapatis and bring up.
You were the help.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was
100%.
just basically domestic help,
Wow.
I mean, I have a master's in English. It's not as if I'm
Bam,
Uned-
Auntie's just showing off now.
uneducated woman. But I was just not good enough.
Hmm. Because of your
So,
position as an outsider and a daughter-in-law.
yes,
That's
so
what it was.
all these things were very hurtful, just very hurtful to live with. And,
So obviously, it's not surprising to anybody that you got a divorce. Like you filed for divorce. What was that whole process like? So from the point, at what point did you decide? Like, do you remember when you actually decided that okay, we're pursuing a divorce? So
no, I
it was
think
because of the
so
children
many
and stuff. Like,
instances happened. Apart from the physical abuse, there was the verbal abuse. Just using words like "kutti haramzadi," which I'm sure is a
wow.
You
Punjabi.
stupid fucking cow. I remember
Yeah,
that one
that's-
vividly. And I was like, oh, this is terrifying.
Yeah.
And the girls had to listen to it. Girls
I mean,
had
the
to
thing
listen
is,
to
as
this
soon as
language.
as soon as us three got in the car and went to school, like the mood totally changed. Like as soon as he kind of left that environment, we'd laugh about it, we'd take the piss out of him, we'd wish horrible things would happen to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, I think you were kind of leading up to that point where you were like, I definitely have to do this. I definitely have to do this. And then Sabi and I got to a certain age where you were like, right, they're not like babies anymore.
Mhm.
Like I like if I stay here any longer, I'm literally gonna die here. So we have to get out.
So at one point, I was looking for an exit. I think it was from the 10th year of the time when I completed 10 years.
It's like they're in prison.
When I
Yeah.
look back, I think that's the time I thought, no, this is not the way I can live the rest of my life. So I think it was that time when I spoke to a solicitor friend. But the time I finally did gather the strength to do it was the 15th year of my marriage.
Mhm.
So it still took me time.
5 years.
It still took me 5 years. And all that time, my mother would say, oh, keep trying. I did try. I tried to make it work. But I remember one time there was a huge row again over family. And my ex took my car keys away. So I didn't have a car.
Right.
And so he was driving them to school. And so this was my punishment.
Wow, like you were a child.
Just so I was confined to home. I
Mhm.
couldn't go anywhere. I had started a course, a CELTA course, which is Certificate in Teaching English as a Foreign Language. And so I had to go to college, and where we lived, the public transport is not good. So this was peak winter, where I had to walk to the station, which was about a mile, half a mile or more, and then change 2 trains to get to college where I was. So this was all meant to just make life very difficult for me.
I guess there's a humiliation aspect as well, isn't it?
So just to live with that humiliation was what just broke me inside.
Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah. It's weird, like being a guy as part of this conversation. It's just strange because it's like you can't imagine being in that position. I guess I don't know
I think
domestic
you can't
violence and
imagine
stuff
treating someone
And
like
then
that.
Yeah.
Especially the person who's had your children.
Yeah.
you kind of look to the man that you're married to is supposed to give you security, is supposed to protect you. And when you're living in fear of that very man,
Mhm.
I think that tells you that it's wrong. The relationship is so wrong.
Yeah.
This man who's supposed to make you feel safe and secure, the home where I lived in, the doors had sensors, so when they opened, they would make a sound. So when he came home from work and I could hear the beep, I would have palpitations, like, oh my God, he's come home.
Jeez.
I think we all felt like that.
Yes. So
Did you share this feeling?
Yeah. Like the more out of the house he was, the better. And
Yeah.
like he could leave for work like in a totally fine mood, and then come home and just be like giving us a silent treatment and fucking slamming doors, and you'd be like, "What's up?" And like, there was just it was really really hostile.
Did you guys ever experience what your mum experienced?
No. He always no, never. Like he really has never done anything to us. But again, because we're blood and mum is not.
Yeah.
So it's like that thing, isn't it?
It's true. So the divorce that ends up happening, and I'm assuming you remember the actual divorce.
Yeah,
I think you were saying off air that you actually encouraged it.
Yeah, I think once we got to a certain age, I was around 15 when the divorce went through. I was like, you have to, like, this is not okay. Like, with age, you kind of realize. I think also your eyes get open to these things through school and telly and whatever.
Yeah.
And you realize that this is not normal. Normal people don't live like this. And obviously seeing my mum in, such a state, I was like, yeah, we have to fuck off out of here immediately. And we really didn't care about the consequences of, not seeing our father again. It really didn't matter because the damage was so done.
Yeah. And
so at one point, because I didn't have anywhere to go, take my children and go. So for some time, I remained in the family home whilst the divorce was going on, and that was.
You moved into my room.
Yes, I would sleep in my daughter's room, and it was an awful atmosphere in the home because my ex was, just abusing, and so I got a non-molestation order against him on the advice of my solicitor. But my ex begged me to take it back, saying that, please take it back, and I'm willing to give an undertaking that I won't do anything. And because I had to stay there and I had nowhere else to go, I took the order back.
Yeah.
But I'd had to call the police on a couple of occasions before that. And then my ex-mother-in-law got a non-molestation order against me. Now, this was just before I was going to India. I went to attend a family wedding. And my solicitor said to me, "You must oppose that." And I said to her, "Oh, I don't say anything to them. I never, it's fine. I'm going to India now. I'll come back and see what to do." I got back from India, and within a week of, I was still thinking, oh, I have to go and see my solicitor. I made an appointment to go and see her. This was all planned after one argument over something, just a verbal argument. My ex-mother-in-law called the police, saying that I was abusing her.
Right.
And I was, and I still remember it was a Friday evening. I was, the police took me. I thought I was just going to give my statement, and I said to the girls, I said, "I'll be back soon."
You put your lipstick on, you put your perfume on. We were
Yes,
like, oh,
so
she's just
I
popping
said,
out.
I said, oh, I'll be back soon. Don't worry, And I was shocked, appalled, horrified to find that I was detained and I had to spend 2 nights in jail. I could, in prison, I couldn't stop crying. It was the most horrific, traumatizing time that I can remember, to be in a cell for 2 nights.
So
I cannot even describe it.
So why?
Describe it because it was a non-molestation order,
and you'd effectively broken it.
I had effectively broken it.
Okay.
And how much does the civil person know about law? I had no idea that this could happen if I was framed into this. And my ex-mother-in-law was actually, it was all planned, and it was, my daughter actually said in court that the mother-in-law said, "Oh, we will do to you what you did, because you called the police on our son. So we will.
Now we're going to throw you out.
Right.
So eventually, at that time, the court hearing didn't take place until Monday, and I was told that I have to leave the property. So I was escorted into the property with a policeman, where I just packed a bag. And at the time, my ex was very apologetic. He said, "Oh, I didn't know." He was not in the house when all this happened, when the mother did all this.
Yeah.
So he said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll sort out. I'll give you a property to live in and whatever." But then he changed. It took a month before I was in court again. There was a court hearing again, and thankfully, my children gave evidence. It was on the evidence and statement of my older daughter, Mona, who's here. I was acquitted, and I had an excellent defense lawyer. It was actually a scene out of a film, in court, where the defense lawyer proved Mona was able to say that, look, the grandmother wanted to get revenge, and this is what she said, and because
Yeah.
Mona was party to all that. So,
Mona, you're a snitch. You're giving
Shit, they're gonna
statements.
come kill me now.
What was that experience like for you?
It was
How old were you at the
mental.
time?
I don't know, 14, 13, 14, 15. It all kind of blurs those years of kind of eventually leading up to the whole thing. But no, it was mad. And again, you kind of were forced to pick a side, and there was absolutely no way that, gosh, the lectures I used to get from that side of the family, like, your mum's a bitch, like, you really are better off with us. I was like, I don't know about that, to be honest. And honestly, I'd literally sit there, like, crying my eyes out, and these three, my dad, my auntie, and my grandma would be like, your mum's a bitch, like, literally, like, indoctrinating. Yeah, like, you're better off without her, she's done this to us, she's done that to us. But nothing, like, it was just never ever convincing, because I knew I was there to see, like, ultimately,
Yeah.
I've seen how you treat her.
Right.
And I know there's no good reason for it. So
it's a pretty easy thing to do, I guess. Like, even though the process might have been difficult, like,
yeah, it was a no-brainer. There's no way I was going to see, anything bad happen to my mum.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Got it. It's intense, man. Like, I couldn't picture being like 13, 14, having to like fucking worry about history homework, and also like, go defend my mum in court. Like, it's intense. It is intense.
It's crazy. And I don't know how much, like, again, it was all very insular. We've got quite a small family, in honesty. So I don't know how much of that eventually seeped out into the community once the divorce came through and stuff. But then them lot were all like telling people one thing, and then things would come back to my mom, and there was a huge amount of rumors
that always
and stuff.
happens, of course. They said a lot of nasty things about me, making me out to be she only got married to my son for a British passport, and she's a gold digger, and just a lot of nonsensical stuff.
Yeah.
Which the close friends who are close to me, who've had an insight into the family, know what is what. But yeah, you find out. It was after that, you find out who are your real friends, how things change for you.
Yeah.
When you become single, how two of my married friends, their husbands asked me out. They thought, oh, the woman's available now. So these things also
what is wrong with Asian men? Like, honestly, is that generation?
Bro, no, that is fucking. I'm sorry, that was the funniest thing. I laughed for like a good 10 minutes when you told me that earlier. Like, imagine going through a divorce and then there's somebody on the line like, "Hey, babes, you need
like your friend's husband." He's like, "Oh my God!" Like, it's just such a horrible thing.
That's amazing. That must have been an ego boost, though. You must have been like, still got
dinner,
it.
Yeah, did you get an ego boost from that?
No.
Sure.
Bros before hoes, people. Even aunties adhere to that.
I think you were just 100% put off men, to be honest, and I think we all were.
I don't know. I was actually just amused, I thought, yeah, welcome to this. Welcome to the world of being single. It was also very liberating in a sense that.
If you don't mind me asking, how old were you at the time?
About 10 years ago, right?
41.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're still like a young woman.
Yes. Yeah. But yes, it was peaceful. My ex gave us, he had this property which I did not even know about when I was with him. But it all came out in the financial disclosure. It was a very small property, but we lived, it was a huge drop in the standard of living and what my girls were used to. But there was peace. We didn't. There was no fear. we had little and we survived with little.
Yeah.
Um, and it was liberating not to be told about what to do and what I'm not doing right. It was just very frustrating to live with that sort of thing. You have a man who's not happy, you have a mother-in-law who's not happy, and it was a rotten atmosphere.
Did you come out of that relationship like? I know you said that it was liberating and it was like a breath of fresh air, I guess. But did it take you time to like rebuild your own confidence and stuff, or did that shit never leave?
Yes, no, it did take time. It did take time, but slowly from being an anxious, tense, timid woman, um, I got into the Asian media through some friends, and I even did some work for television.
Mm-hmm.
I still anchor events. So,
What does that involve? Is that because of your
um,
story, or
well, I speak fluent Hindi in addition to English.
yeah,
So I've anchored several events at the Indian High Commission, um, uh, inaugurations, fashion events, reported for television for
right?
an Asian TV channel.
My dad never wanted my
So-
mum to work, by the way. So she's got her master's
Okay, right.
from India,
Okay.
but he was like, "No, I will make the money. You just make the babies and clean and make the dal and whatever." So as soon as we kind of broke away from that, you were just like, "Right, like now I 100% can pursue everything I want to do."
Okay, gotcha. Right. That makes
Hence
sense.
why the career changed.
So I think we have come a long way. I still don't have a lot of money, but I think from where I was, the journey to where I am now, it's it's a long way.
And like you're shaping your own life and stuff. And
Yes. So I do believe that we do have it in us. We do have it in us to steer the ship of our life
Mhm.
in the direction that we want. It's you just have to gather the courage to do it.
Yeah.
I did. The fact that I suffered for the number of years that I did, because we are conditioned to believe that endurance is a virtue, and that you've got to make it work, and how important it is to make a marriage work. uh, Again, I think we human beings are optimistic,
Mhm.
so optimistic that we forget where optimism should end and realism should step in.
It's poetic.
For many years I believed, yes, things are going to get better, they're going to get better. But to actually wake up, open your eyes and smell the coffee and think, no, this is not working, I need to get out.
Would that be like your message to like people in similar situations?
Yes, so I would say yes, don't give up easily, but be sensible enough to understand where optimism should end and realism should step in, where you have to become realistic and think, this is not working.
Mhm.
I'm not going to get a gold medal for being in this marriage. You only live once, and I need to get out.
Yeah.
I think once you realise
So-
that the behaviour, like you can't change someone, although you might like to try and think you can, you really can't. So when that sort of thought is so ingrained, and by ingrained I mean someone was raised from a baby into the man he's become, with this sort of disrespect, with this anger, and with this like my mum is God sort of mindset,
Mhm.
there is absolutely no changing it. Like he will die like that.
Yeah. I got you. Do you reckon? Could you imagine yourself? Like, obviously, you're somebody who's born and raised here. Pretty coconutty, I have to say. No, but like, as in somebody who's born and raised here, could you ever imagine yourself being in like a position like that?
No. I mean, what I can say is, it being in that sort of growing up in that sort of environment and seeing that sort of example of a relationship affects you in adulthood. In that, when I got into my first relationship, it was not a healthy one, but red flags didn't really like. There were plenty of red flags at the start, but I didn't see them because I didn't really ever see sort of any sort of healthy relationship.
Do you mind if we talk about that?
Well, we can do briefly.
Briefly, you're like, nah, fuck this.
Yeah,
Obviously, you like let's stop it. But do you reckon that had an effect on like how I'd want to say how accepting? Like, you know, I don't. Do you think that example of like your parents' relationship led you to believe that certain stuff was acceptable when it wasn't?
Yeah, and you know what? It was really confusing because I kind of associated this behavior, and this is obviously we're kind of focusing on the South Asian community, but I was very much against ever being with someone who was brown.
Right.
Because I thought that all brown men were wrong'uns.
Right.
And just not for me, and like, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I started going out at 17 with someone who was white and British and whatever. But those red flags appeared in kind of some behavior traits that were very similar to my dad's. And although I looked at my dad as not any sort of like great figure or role model, when it came to like in a relationship setting, yeah, I was more accepting of things because I'd seen that with my own eyes. And even though I knew it was wrong, for some reason, I stayed and I thought I can change them.
Right.
And I think, again, that was naivety. And with age, you kind of, again, evolve a new layer of understanding that actually, this isn't a cultural thing. This is a people thing. And you cannot change people.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense. I should point out to any of our listeners that are offended by any of that, she has ended up with a brown dude now. So very good. Okay,
I'm not a racist.
You stick to us. Okay.
But that behavior can honestly be in anyone.
Yeah.
And this guy's behavior was absolutely not to do with like being mummied or anything like that. But you know, it's still 100% unacceptable.
Yeah, and I do think it is important to like point out as well. And we talk about this all the time before we even thought about doing like anything like this. That there is something endemic in like our community, South Asian community, Punjabi community as well. Like the way that women are sort of like thought of, but then also domestic violence, I think specifically. I think in your generation, Simi, it's like women were coming in. A lot of the times, it was women that were coming over from India that were vulnerable. I guess you didn't have a social circle here. You didn't have your family. And it was almost like, I guess you were like being preyed on. Like it was strange. And then you have the flip side as well, where it was like women who'd come over and modernized and stuff. Then we're like bringing over dudes from a different culture that were then like resenting that, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like you're fucked either way, really.
Yeah, and you've seen, you know, there's so much out there kind of in the media with books that have been written and documentaries have been made about this kind of subject. And yes, those are the people who speak out, but it's very much still something that no one really talks about. And women go through years of abuse without seeking any sort of help or brushing it under the carpet or thinking it's okay.
As two people who have gone through something like that, what would your advice be to women in situations like that?
Well, I would just say that, you know, there's you always have the decision to you know, walk away and not be helpless. There is help out there. You know, you don't have to put up with a life of indignity. There are always choices. You have to be strong enough. You have to have the courage to, okay, give it your best shot. And then you have the courage to actually walk away
and also not
and
care
live your
what
life
people would think about it,
and not care about people. Who are these people? It's your life. It's your life, and you live only once. And make sure it's a good one.
It's a nice message.
So,
do you have a message for any like mummies boys out there?
No.
Don't do it.
Stop
I would
listening
just say,
to your mother.
if you're a mummy's boy, please don't bring another woman into your life. Please,
Marry your mummy.
Please live with your mummy. You have no right.
You and mummy
You
live
have no
happily
right.
ever
You
after.
have no right to bring another woman in your life. You know, please.
That's how incels are built.
Stay with your mummy. You know, and if
Stay
you're
with
not
your
ready to take on the responsibilities of a married man, please don't bring a woman into your life. Nobody's putting a gun to your head.
Yeah.
To get married. Please just enjoy life. Stay single. And if you've decided you're going to bring somebody into your life, and have a family, then please grow up.
Just grow the fuck up, all right?
And do the right thing.
Yeah.
Do the right thing. I like that. That's
Yes.
it. Because one thing, and I guess it's probably best to like end on a positive note as well. And we talked about this off air as well. Is how like content and happy you are now, like in your life, and that there was like a life after the divorce, and you know going through, I guess like sheer hell for like a few years. There is something at the end of it, and now you're living like a happy, content life.
Yes, definitely. I think yes, the journey was not easy, but it's definitely been worth it. We are in a much happier place. Things are never going to be perfect.
Mhm.
Life is always going to throw challenges. There are challenges of a much different kind, and but just to say that I live a life of dignity. There is somebody in my life now who treats me really well, and I'm very happy where I am. My girls are doing well, and yes, I feel blessed.
But I
I've,
know, even though that is the case, I think because you spent so many years in that marriage, Mum does say things like, "Oh, like those years that have gone and stuff," and I'm just like, you cannot think like that. Like, it's gone and it is
Yeah.
gone, and you're not like really, really old. Like,
Yes, well, time has gone. It's.
but I know you feel bad about that, and you sometimes say,
I
"Oh,
just wish for my girls now. I just wish that they find love and they find happiness, and
Yeah.
whatever time's gone, I can't bring it back. But I still feel blessed. I think we all have to count our blessings, basically.
Mhm.
So yeah, missed out on some things. Didn't have a happy married life, but God has been kind in a lot of other ways, and I think, like I said, I feel blessed.
Excellent.
Yes.
Sounds like a good note to end on. I think there's only one thing left, which is a familial hug. If you would like to sign off like that, Mona.
oh."
There we go.
Thanks for coming on, Mum.
Thank you, Vita. Thank you.
So, you're done.
Cool.
Excellent.
Well done, Mummy.
Yeah, that was great. You were great. You were fantastic. Should we just replay that around?